Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Games podcast for episode 113. Today, we're going to be talking about a bunch of Nintendo stuff. We're joined by a friend of the show, Cognitive Clips, aka Jordan, aka Cognitive Glitch, aka my sweet. I need a sweet something for you, Jordan. I don't know what it is yet. My sweet little glitch, perhaps.
Ooh,
Who knows? How you doing, Jordan?
doing pretty well, man. How you doing today?
Good. Thanks for being here. Our sweet dumpster boy needed a little break today, and who else could we rely on than you, our sweet little cognitive glitch? This I don't even know how many times you've been on the show at this point, but it's been a lot, and I like it.
I think this is number 4.
Number 4.
I like it too. I'll clarify. I like that I'm here. I don't like the reason that I'm here.
Correct.
Cayman, do well, man.
Yes.
We missed you.
If you're listening or watching, throw up some sweet nasty love for Cayman, whether it's in the chat, whether it's if you're in the Discord, maybe shoot a little message in the general channel wishing Cayman well. He'll be back, just not this week. But we do have a lot of video game stuff to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games podcast where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time right here on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod. So be sure to follow us there so that you're notified when we go live so you can be part of the conversation. And if you're here live, I got Sweet Jaskrin in the chat. We got myself in the chat for the test. If you're in the chat, tomorrow night we continue our Last of Us 2 playthrough with Rose on the sticks at 8 p.m. on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod. And if you're listening to this on podcast services or on YouTube, later episodes 1 and 2 are already up on YouTube, and episode 3 will probably be up very shortly if it isn't already. And finally, I've mentioned it once, I'm going to mention it again. Join the Discord. We have a fun little Discord where we discuss what we're playing and generally goof off together about video games. So if that sounds like something you'd like, click the link in the description or find it in the bio of our socials. Jordan, the housekeeping is out of the way. The house is kept.
You come to the Discord for Cayman's Platinum game reviews.
Yes.
Which are eloquent as all get out.
Yes.
I love it. But then you stay for talking games with some buds.
Exactly.
You stay for finding out which states allow cousins to marry.
A conversation we did have recently.
That was an actual conversation.
Yeah.
Because as a native of Kentucky, I had some accusations thrown my way that my wife may be related by blood. She's not. We had to state as such on
let the record show, let the record reflect, I was not the one questioning here. Because there's more than just me in the Discord.
You weren't stopping it either.
I wasn't stopping it, to be fair, but I wasn't the one questioning the truth of the matter. But Jordan, what do you say we talk about some video games? What do you say we talk about what we've been playing, doggy dog? What have you been playing?
It's always a great way to start off. So, faithful listeners, the last time I was on here was January 31st, so pretty much a full month ago. And at that time, I had started diving into Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. A few days after that, I finished it. As far as the story is concerned, had a blast. Absolutely great game. I'm still playing it. I've pretty much doubled my play time just doing like the kind of post game quests and stuff like that. It's still a lot of fun to dive into. Aside from that, I've also been kind of hopping back into Sea of Stars here and there to finish up my platinum journey. I've been hopping back into some Tears of the Kingdom to clean up some shrines that I didn't get to during my main playthrough. And you and I both, Patrick, have been diving straight into hell.
Yeah, a bit of a different kind of diving we've been doing.
Not dumpster diving.
Correct.
Well, yes, that's a maneuver within the game.
That is true.
Speaking of my last appearance, I'm on record, on camera, in front of God and all these witnesses, saying how much I didn't care about Helldivers 2 and Patrick, I didn't prep you for this, but
Oh boy.
when I posted a video to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/ at cognitive hyphen clips,
Yep.
I had a little gag at the end of it where I had that clip of me saying, I don't care about it. And then like a smash cut to like my hours played within like 25 hours.
Yeah.
So that screenshot that I used was from Saturday,
Okay.
25 hours.
Okay.
Today is Tuesday. I want you to guess what my hours are now.
Let's see. I have a little bit of insider knowledge because I did see at one point you posted a 30-hour screenshot. So I know it's above 30. So now the question becomes, how far above 30 have you made it? I'm going to guess, because I don't remember exactly what day that was. My gut tells me it was Sunday. I could be wrong, though. So I'm going to guess you're up to 36 hours.
Close. 33.
33, not too far off.
Not too far off.
I did break the rules in Price is Right. I've gone over, but that's okay. We're not playing the prices right here. 33 hours.
Not tonight. Yeah. Do you want to know how many hours I have in Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, an action RPG with an actual story to go through?
I'm going to guess 32 hours.
You are correct.
Yes, I got one. Man, so you've played this action fucking bug shooter more than a massive, massive RPG.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
And listeners, I can't even. It's just that good. Like, I'm not even the person to grab it. This is what I was kind of hinting at and talking about the other week, is that I'm not typically a person to go for the multiplayer centric, no story, just go in and play like, yeah, I dip my toes in some Overwatch back in the day and things
Yeah.
like that. But like, anytime I'm playing multiplayer stuff these days, it's usually because there's a story mode as well.
Yeah.
Whereas Helldivers 2 is persistently online. It's only, I mean, you can do it by yourself if you want to, but there is no like campaign. There is no story mode. But like the gameplay loop is just that addictive. It's just that much fun.
Yeah.
And,
Listeners of this show also know that I am not the multiplayer guy. I have probably said something along the lines of I play games for the story or I don't play multiplayer games more than I have said how much I like The Last of Us, which is an ongoing joke of this podcast as well, how much I like that and how often I bring it up.
I had no idea you even played it.
Haha. But for me, I tried Helldivers solo and it's just not as fun. It is more fun to play with people, even if they're strangers, which is not something that I normally like doing with video games. If I'm going to play with people, I like it to be people that I know, so that at least I'm not squadding up with some secretly racist 12-year-old who probably won't keep it a secret for very long. And I'm having so much fun playing Helldivers 2. We've had the privilege of squatting up a couple times, well, like one and a half times. Because one time the servers wouldn't let us play together, but they let us both play. But this game, it's like absurdity as fun, if that makes sense. Like, because part of it, I think, part of the fun is one of the last missions that I did before we went live. This was on Sunday. I did my first challenging mission with a squad, and I had almost primarily played in easy before going to challenging, but I was a guest of theirs. They were in control. They did it in challenging. Within like 45 seconds of the mission, I was like, hey guys, what difficulty is this? Because this seems so much harder than what I've been playing. Like, oh yeah, this is challenging. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I ended up doing 2 missions. Both of them, only one of us got out because one, we barely even made it to the end. We ran out of respawns by the end of the mission. We had to keep waiting for the countdown. But the last one especially was amazing in that all of us ended up being alive once we called to be evacuated. But by the time we were evacuated,
2 minutes, by the way, for whom doesn't know.
Yeah. Thank you.
Evac at 2 minutes.
By the end of the 2 minutes, all of us died. And we thought we were about to lose the mission because the 4th one of us died and we had no more respawns. But I think either one of 2 things happened. Either the game like glitched and it gave us a free pass, or I misread the timer and it hit like a respawn right as I thought we didn't have one. So one of our crew soars down with like 7 seconds left on the clock. We're all dead. We're like, get in the ship, get in the ship. And he runs through like several, like it was cinematic how many bugs were at the evac point. Like it was insane.
Yeah.
He catches on fire, jumps like dumpster dives into the thing because I sillily had just dropped a napalm strike before I died because there were so many bugs. It's like, look, we got to do something. And he got in, and there was like 6 or 8 seconds left on the clock, and he got away. We ended up only getting like 3 stars on the mission, but we won, and it was
That's how
so exhilarating.
it is.
It's amazing. If you're not playing Helldivers, you have to. Cole House Jr. in the chat says, "Boy, Helldivers is wild, so much fun, but just insane. It is pure insanity." Have you had any crazy situations like that, Jordan, in Helldivers too?
Have I had any? No, so many.
Yeah.
It's like it's just pure chaos. Like even I guess it was last night I played with my cousin Chad, and I like got all excited because I'd done like maybe just narrowly escaped dying, or maybe like threw a good grenade or something. And we were like, yeah, yeah. And then I ran around a corner, and there was one of those like big old fat like bile spitter things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
We're just like, oh, almost like jump scare yourself.
yeah.
Because yeah, those things, if you're standing still, then it's over.
It's
Like
over.
if
Yeah,
you hit, if they get you with a direct hit, you die like instantly. So I was like diving out of the way. There's also one time where I tried to be strategic and call down a stratagem on top of, they're called chargers. I don't. I think this may have been the first time I'd come across them, so I didn't know how heavily armored they were. So my stratagem did literally nothing to it. And it just charged through the gate, and I tried to dive out of the way, and it just like it just runs over me.
yeah. It's so good. It's so good. Tony in the chat, handsome Tony in the chat says, "Have the server issues been resolved yet?" Yeah. So yes
Yes.
and no. The reason I say no, so I think they've made it to where the max peak concurrent is 700K at the moment. But I did see a story today that the CEO, whose name escapes me at the moment, was like, "Hey guys, 700K is the max. We're probably going to hit that still. Like, we're probably going to hit the max, but because it's so much bigger, you probably won't have to wait for like 10, 20 minutes like some people were having to wait when it was like at its worst." So, yes, the servers have been fixed, but there are probably still going to be times that we have to wait to get in. But he assured in this message that he sent, was like, if you're waiting, it really won't be long at all because they've like almost doubled the capacity that they have at the moment. Because yeah,
Yeah,
it's insane the amount that this game has grown and since launch, or like a couple weeks ago.
it really is. Why I said just yes off the bat that they were fixed is I was checking a screenshot that I took. I started a timer on my phone. It was last Tuesday, um, just to see how long it took me to get in.
Yeah,
And it was just shy of 30 minutes of just sitting at that screen waiting for it to let me in,
yeah,
before I could actually play. And then the next night, so Wednesday was like less than 10 minutes. Ever since Wednesday night, it's been instantaneous. I have
yeah,
not waited for more than like, I haven't even seen that like, so servers, full, whatever. I
yeah,
haven't even
yeah,
seen that
yeah.
alert at all since Wednesday. So
Yeah, because the other big thing
they
that they fixed was an update that booted anyone that was idle, which they didn't have
for
that
like
at
15
the
minutes.
first.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that I think all of like those two things combined, I doubt we'll have to wait long at all if we even have to wait moving forward. But yeah, good on the team for being able to sort that out rather quickly.
And
All
for being
things
so
considered.
transparent too. Like
Yeah,
whatever CEO guy's name is, he's been so transparent the entire time, which is like, yes, I completely understand the frustration. I wasn't necessarily, I wasn't throwing a party for how long I had to wait. That was annoying.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's like this is a pretty small team. Like, yes, published by Sony, but they're still, you know, pretty much second party. They're not like a full AAA developer. Um, they did not expect it to blow up like this because the first one surely didn't.
right,
And so,
right.
like, I think I had a little bit more like understanding than some folks did. But again, I get it. Like, you pay $40 for something, you want to be able to play it.
Yeah, for sure.
between just knowing their situation and also how open he was the entire process, I was like, okay, just do your thing because
Yeah.
it's when I'm able to get in there. And yes, you are absolutely right. It is infinitely more fun when you are with somebody. But there's been a handful of nights where I just like no one's available, so I just go in solo for a few missions, and I still have a good time. Like,
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
it's,
It's still fun solo. It's just a lot more fun when you have someone to play with.
yes, especially bouncing off of how crazy it is with whatever just happened, like how the chaos that's raining down around you.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, if you're watching or listening and you're playing Helldivers, join our Discord squad up with us because we have I think like 4 people in the Discord playing at any given moment at this point. And we know people outside of the Discord also playing. So let us know if you want to play some Helldivers because
I
I
have at
haven't played
least
since
2
Sunday and
friends.
I really want to play. Oh, whoops. Let's see. Hold on. The screen got all messed up. My screen share stopped. So let me do that real quick. Let's see what happened. Let's fix this. Here we go. Let's see if we've chat. Let me know if audio and stuff is still good because my computer is chugging a little bit at the moment. So let me know if there's a problem. While we do that, though, while I wait to see if there's any sort of issue on the stream's end, I want to report a game I've been playing that I don't think Jordan has been playing, but correct me if I'm wrong. A new game called Balatro. This is
I have not.
a cool. You should is the opening statement for my time with Balatro. If you don't know what Balatro is a game that I know is on PC and PS5. I forgot to check if it's on Switch or Xbox, but I do know it's on PC and PS5. I'm playing on PC, but it is a poker roguelite, which might sound stupid. I'm not a poker guy. I did have a short poker phase when I was like 10. I played like online poker for free one summer
You
while
had
listening.
a poker phase?
Exactly. A poker phase, poker phase.
Ma, 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 ma.
Exactly. I so vividly remember this summer. I was like 10, and I listened to this like one John Legend album on repeat while playing online poker in my parents' basement. Beside the point. The way Balatro works, it's such a fascinating game. So, for those of you that don't know how poker works, it's a card game, and like each hand has a different value, essentially, whether it's a pair, 2 pair, 5 of the same suit, or like 3 of a kind and 2 of a kind, like together. Like there's all these different kinds of hands in poker, and each of those hands in this game carry a number value. And each of those number values also have a multiplier. And as you go through and you're building a deck in this game, similar to like a Slay the Spire type game, and each of the like there are cards that bring in certain multipliers and might change the way a card works, or it might make a suit be able to be used in any of the 4 suits, like a wild card essentially. There's like so many different variants of cards and types of cards, and you unlock jokers, and each joker has a power. A power might be if your hand you play has a club in it, times 12 multiplier, or if it's a face card, you get 10 extra chips per card, or whatever. Like there's just all of these different types of multipliers and game changers essentially. And you go through and like you fight these enemies, and essentially the way that you fight is you just have to get like a certain score by the end of the hands that you've accrued, and every round it goes up. So like the first round you might only have to score 350 points, but by the final round you have to score 100,000. And the way you can eventually get to that is by building your deck, getting certain types of multipliers and certain types of powers based on the kinds of hands that you're building. And if all of this sounds super complicated or confusing, I promise you it's not. If you know how to play poker. If you don't know how to play poker, the game might be tough. But it is so much fun. It is like peak just one more hand or one more round, one more
Mm.
run type. Like that, I think that feeling that any roguelite is always trying to go after, Balatro has it. And I've been forcing myself to stop playing because I'm trying to get through Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. I'm like brushing up on the end of that game. Like I want to finish that before Final Fantasy VII Rebirth launches at the end of this week. But all I'm thinking about is playing Balatro. It is so much fun. So very, very strongly recommend. And I'm kicking myself that a couple weeks ago when the Steam Next Fest demos were happening, I didn't try this because if I had
Mm.
tried it, I would have added it in Fantasy Critic and I would have scored like 27 points because this thing is
Right,
like a
'cause they've got
96 on Metacritic or something like that.
isn't it it's
It's in the
well, I guess
90s. I know
now
it's in the
with
90s.
the Rebirth, I was gonna say, is it the highest rated so far of the year, but it might be second after
It might be
Rebirth.
second after Rebirth, but its reviews are insane. It's got tens from so many places. And honestly, having played like 10 hours so far I say that's completely deserved. This game is a triumph of a deck builder. If you like deck builders, you must play Balatro. It is so much fun. Do you like deck builders at all, Jordan? I know that we have talked a lot about how much we both play Marvel Snap, but past Marvel Snap, do you fuck with deck builders at all?
Yeah, I dabble here and there, so I've played a little bit of Inscription. I never did, like I think I got through to the 3rd area before I kinda kept hitting a wall against that boss and couldn't get past it. Um, and I put a decent amount of hours into Slay the Spire as well, especially when I had my Xbox and I had, like, an active Game Pass subscription. That was something I could just, like, hop on my phone and just, like, logged in on Game Pass on my phone and just play some Slay the Spire because it's like, man, that game is perfect for a touch screen. It's great. I can't hear you, Patrick.
Oh, whoops! I accidentally muted myself. Yeah, Slay the Spire is so good. And I started playing Slay the Spire on Switch, and then I bought it on the phone because I wanted to also play it when I wasn't home. And I
Mhm.
learned that on the phone you can kind of cheese it a little bit, and like if you kill the app, you can redo a round in Slay the Spire. So I won so many more runs in Slay the Spire on my phone because I'd be like, let me try again. And there are certain times where it's
Crazy.
like my deck's just not good enough. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, if you like Slay the Spire, I know John isn't here in the chat. At least if he is, he's being silent. I know he's a big Slay the Spire guy. Whenever Balatro is on a
John, speak up.
console, you have
If
speak
you're in
up,
the
John.
chat, speak up.
Speak up,
Come on.
John. You got to play Balatro. I know it's not on iPhone yet. I'm sure it's coming to iPhone, but you got to play Balatro. Jordan, anything else you've been playing before we move on to our first story of the day?
I don't think so,
Okay.
actually. Yeah, those are the major ones. I have one quick question for you though about
Yeah,
Balatro.
please.
So obviously, I'm familiar with how deck builders work when it's something like Marvel Snap or it's Slay the Spire, all those games we just talked about. But like for Balatro, with it being a poker game, so when you're building your deck, is it that you're like subbing out your two of clubs for a like modified two of clubs, or are you like discarding a two of clubs altogether in favor of a joker? You know what I mean? Like
Great
how does that work
question.
for Balatro?
Yes. So you can destroy cards. You can just add cards. Normally, I add cards. There are a few cards that you can choose to destroy cards. I haven't fully understood the strategy behind behind destroying a card in your deck, but yeah. So each round that you finish, you earn certain dollars, and those dollars change based on like the deck that you're doing, or you might have like a joker or something that makes you earn more money. And then in between each game that you play, you can spend that money in a shop. And in the shop, there are a few different things you can buy. You can buy just like general modifiers that like completely change or like add a thing for that game. Something like for $10, you can change like the bosses I forget what they call it, but there's like the big boss of each round has like one of them is like if like any hand with a club in it, the club won't count. Or another one is like when you play a hand, the next cards that you draw are face down. That one is like impossible to beat. So like there is a modifier that just makes it like you can re-roll what that penalty is once. That's like one thing you can buy in the shop. You can buy modified club cards like you mentioned, or you can just buy plain club cards. There's just like certain things because you might one of the rounds that I was able to win, my deck was very big with flushes, so 5 of the same suit, but I unlocked a joker card, which joker cards don't actually live in your deck. They live like above your deck. They're essentially like permanent modifiers. I had a joker that made flushes be able to be 4 cards instead of 5. So
Ooh,
I essentially like I was like change as many cards as I can to diamonds because there's another card that like lets you change certain card suits. And I was like upgrading the flush hand because one of the things you can buy is like upgrading certain hands value. So my flush hand was like a level 10 compared to if I played like a straight, that was level 0 because I was putting all my chips, no pun intended, into flushes. So a boo. But yeah, so kind of a jumping around answer to say, if I were to boil it down to recap the answer, is you earn currency and you can spend the currency to buy cards for the deck. And those cards can be jokers, they can be individual cards you're going to play, they can be modified versions of the cards you already have. Like there's like a few different ways that you can use the currency to either build the deck or alter the deck.
But you don't, so you don't have to have like 52 cards that are all like 1 through 10 and the face cards. You can have them where like some of like you can have a deck that has no threes, or you can have a
you
deck
could
that has
technically,
no
yeah.
spades.
You do start out, every run does start you out with the plain 52. You have like one of each number, one of each suit. And then, yeah, from there, each round you can add to it, get rid of certain cards, that kind of thing. That's so, yeah. Your base deck is the full deck of cards, and then each round you'll add to it or change it a little bit based on how successful you are. And there's this other last thing that's really interesting about this. So the structure of it is there's a small blind, a big blind, and then the boss, which is a poker term: small blind and big blind, big blind. And so each like round is 3 games. But there's a cool thing. It's like a risk reward, which I don't think I've seen in a roguelite before. But I'm curious if others have it because I think it's a really fascinating kind of spice to the genre, which is it gives you the option of skipping like these kind of mini bosses and just going right to the boss. And you might get a benefit for that. Maybe like skipping it will give you $30 for the shop, but you have to win the next game to get the bonus. And so there's like this risk reward factor of, is my hand strong enough to hit the minimum of, let's just say, 20,000 points if I were to skip this round? Or do I need to play this hand to get another bonus card that'll get me like that much stronger to be able to play the boss? And so like there's this fun risk reward of, if I get lucky the first couple hands and I've like already somehow gotten my deck to a place where I'm scoring 7, 8, 10,000 points a round, I can just breeze through the first few like levels essentially because my hand is that strong. But if I need the time to kind of build, then I won't skip those levels. Like, does that concept make sense? Am I explaining it in a way that makes sense?
I think it does, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds like what they want you to do is bet on yourself.
Yes. Fuck yes.
Believe in yourself.
What a great way to end the Balatro conversation. Play Balatro, and if you're playing it, tell me and let me know what you think because this game rules. Jordan, at the top of the show, I said we were going to talk about Nintendo. What I didn't say is in what capacity. We have a few different things to talk about, but number one, the first thing to talk about before we get into the larger conversation of what we're talking about across the board with Nintendo, we have a Direct to talk about, we have a Pokemon Presents to talk about. But to set the stage for those conversations, Jordan, I want to talk about some news. I'm going to be pulling from Andy Robinson at VGC because apparently, which this is bad news for me from a fantasy critic standpoint, which we're going to get to. But apparently, the Switch 2 has tragically been delayed to potentially March 2025 to avoid shortages, a new report claims. Like I said, Andy Robinson at VGC. Andy Robinson writes, Nintendo's next game console is targeting a launch in March 2025. That's according to a new report by Japanese news publication Nikkei, which is a paywalled news source they thought was worth mentioning, which claims that the Switch's successor or the Switch successor's internal delay, reported first by VGC and others earlier this month, was partly so that Nintendo could avoid potential hardware supply issues. Although Nintendo had planned to launch in late 2024 for Switch 2, according to Nikkei, quote, priority was given to ensure the initial inventory of the successor console and a lineup of software titles at the time of its launch, end quote, in an attempt to avoid widespread reselling. So, quick aside, while I'm disappointed that it might be delayed, if this rumor is true that they're doing it to avoid scalpers, good on you, Nintendo, because fuck scalpers. If you're a scalper, get fucked. Continuing the story, Nikkei says it expects the next Nintendo console to again be a hybrid portable home device similar to the Switch, as reported previously by VGC. The publication also corroborates that the machine will have a larger screen than the original Switch's 6.2-inch display. Nikkei also notes that Switch 2 could yet slip beyond March 2025, dependent on manufacturing and how much software is ready for launch. I think that's a really important piece here. So let's stop there and discuss, Jordan, do you believe the rumors? Do you think this is a good idea? Where's your head at on Switch 2 potentially coming Q1 or maybe a little later in 2025?
Yeah, like I, I couldn't when I tried to look back and confirm this, I couldn't find the evidence, which just means they probably erased it and I was right all along. But I could have sworn that it felt like we got the rumors about fall to holiday range of this year for the release.
Yeah.
And then it was like within 2 weeks, like 2 weeks max, that the new rumor was, oh, it's 2025. And I was like, guys, shut up. It's 2024. Like, don't worry about it. But like the more that they've been talking about it, and as you were just reading, the more that they've like given the reasons for it, I was like, you know what, like, yeah, it kind of sucks as far as just from like a fan standpoint. Wanting to get my hands on it, wanting to see what kind of new games and new gimmicks we can squeeze out of it.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense, and this is coming from the same Nintendo who, you know, when they made the misstep with the Wii U, who decided to cut their own pay at the top of the company rather than lay off employees for something that wasn't their fault, with like the misstep and the the poor sales, the poor
Mm-hmm.
reception for the system. um these are the same people who, with I guess I wouldn't really call it rumors because there's people have found data, but like Metro Prime Remastered, when it was released, people kind of took a look back and I can't remember how they found this or why, but I think it was like a German or maybe like a Finnish, I don't know, some, European ratings board like had a rating for Metro Prime Remastered for the Switch like a solid year before it came out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There was evidence, whether it was, again, I don't know how they came across this, if it was illicitly or just leaks or whatever. There's evidence of Fire Emblem Engage being ready for several months, maybe up to a year before it was released last year. Um, so I really do feel like this is, you know, kind of in line with what they do, where even if something is ready in one sense of the word, like they still are not afraid to hang on until it's a better moment. So in this
Yeah.
instance, hang on to it until they know that they can match the demand that it's certainly going to have. And again, like that reasoning is solid. Like you want to, even aside from the scalping issue, like we saw what happened with the series systems for
Yeah.
Xbox and the
Mm-hmm.
PS5, where like again, just even if you take scalpers out of the equation, you couldn't find it for the longest time.
Yeah. Unless you were
Like and so
lucky, like I was, to get it at launch. Like I know people, like my brother, but like it took him months to even find one because I
right.
just happened to get on Twitter and saw Warrior 64 be like, hey, Target has stock. I went and I got it. And I tried for the next like 4 months to just like get one again so that I'd be like, oh, hey, I got this. Now you like you pay me and I'll just give it to you. And I was unsuccessful. So like if I hadn't been lucky at that first point, I wouldn't have even had it for the first like 5 or 6 months because stock was just so hard to find. Which I think is an interesting point here, but I also saw, and I'm wondering if you saw this too and what you think about this. I saw a theory on Twitter that said I think it might be a scalping issue, but I think it's more so a first party lineup issue that they don't have enough ready for the fall because Nintendo is unique compared to Xbox and PlayStation because so many third party games. So I'm talking Assassin's Creed, I'm talking Call of Duty, I'm talking these big tentpole IP made by folks from like Ubisoft, Obsidian, Activision, like these companies that aren't PlayStation, Nintendo, or Xbox.
Right.
A lot of their games don't play on a Nintendo. So much of what drives Nintendo's sales is Mario, is Zelda, is Animal Crossing, is Metroid, is Super Smash Brothers. And so this theory was like, I just don't think that they have enough ready to launch with it because if Switch 2 doesn't launch with Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey like Switch 1 did, if it doesn't launch with these tentpole first party IP, it's not going to have a great launch, was that person's theory. And I feel like that kind of lines up. I think that kind of makes sense that in terms of like thinking of timelines, we were kind of expecting Switch 2 to launch with the next 3D Mario, whether it's Odyssey 2 or something different, and potentially a Mario Kart. We're not really expecting the next 3D Zelda because we just got Tears of the Kingdom, but perhaps they just don't have stuff ready. And so that maybe that's why
Mhm.
they need to push it out to next year. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a solid theory, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about them not being afraid to hold on to stuff. Like, so
Yeah, yeah.
they may have something ready or ready to go right now, but or they may have had it ready to go for the fall, but then they started the process of getting these manufactured and noticed like, hey, if we just push it by another 3 months, keep it within the same fiscal year, we can make more units and still have this game. Maybe even give them some time to polish it up if they needed to.
Yeah,
Um, but at any rate, it'll definitely give them more time to get more software onto it than they would have otherwise,
for sure.
if it's not already set to go. Because the as we discussed before the show, I kind of did some digging. I looked back at the direct from September, what was announced then. I looked, kind of combed back over. There was, I think it was August of last year, where IGN had that story where there was some sort of earnings call or something that Nintendo had where they, for whatever reason, there was like a short list of games that were like first party titles that were still scheduled to come onto the Switch. And the only ones that was when they had first announced the Princess Peach, like where they had said like there will be a game with Princess
Oh,
Peach.
right, right, right. That
Yeah,
weird like
and they'd also
half
mentioned
announcement.
yeah, that was very strange. And then they'd also fully announced Luigi's Mansion, Dark Moon, port or remake or whatever that is, with just like a 2024, but not a month or a date specifically. Um, but then it also listed Metroid Prime 4 as still being a Switch title, which, as we know, that hasn't come out yet. So but from all of these different, announcements and things that they've put out since last summer, the only two games that are confirmed previously, at least, to be 2024 that don't have an exact date are Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake and Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon.
Which I would
Are
expect
third
both of
party.
those to come this year still, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But again, that's saying like whenever we saw that, you know, short of a lineup, and the Princess Peach game coming in March 22nd, I believe, is the outlier, and that's a brand new IP, of course, not a remake or a port or whatever these other two games are. So like that was one of the things that was getting everybody's gears turning as far as like, oh, so this may be a sign that the Switch 2 is imminent because these like they haven't announced anything big like a new 3D Mario, or they haven't given a release date for Metro Prime 4 and all those other things that would hint at like maybe they're keeping those closer to the vest for the new system. But I guess the question is now, do they start putting out some of those guns sooner to tide us over, or do they still hold them and like take the hit for the finances until the new system comes out? That's what I'm starting to wonder.
I kind of I think I think you're onto something, and I think we got John in the chat. Hey, John. I think yeah,
About time.
yeah, about fucking time. like we both said, yeah, Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door, Luigi's Mansion, Dark Moon, I think shoe-ins for this year. I also think one that you didn't mention, but we had talked about was those Zelda ports that there have been so many
Yes,
rumors about. And there have been rumors of, hey, these are actually done. They're just being held, which is Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. I
exactly.
also, and I've been saying this for 3 straight years, so I'm just going to keep saying it. I also expect those to come out this year. What I don't expect to come out this year, because I do think that they would hold it for a Switch 2 launch, is Mario Odyssey 2 slash whatever the 3D Mario is and Mario Kart
Mhm.
9. And since, today with the Pokemon Presents, we've got a little bit of clarity on what's next for Pokemon, so we'll get to that. But so the big question mark for me is Metroid Prime 4. Is that still, not even is that still this year? Is it this year because it was never said that it would be this year? Or is that going to be a Switch 2 launch title? I tend to think Metroid Prime 4 will be like the swan song of Switch 1 and will probably also be able to be played on Switch 2, I would think. Because there's been rumors of backwards compatibility and or maybe not even rumors, but it's expectation. The library of the Switch is so fucking big now. We have NES, SNES, N64, Game Boy Advance. We're probably going to be getting Game Boy by the end of the year in terms of Switch Online. They've ported so many games and remakes to the Switch. It would be fucking buck wild for it to not be backwards compatible at this point, I think.
It wouldn't even be a shot in the foot. It'll be a shot in the face
Correct. It would.
if they
You're
didn't do
exactly
that.
right. It would be a
Like,
shot in the face if it's not backwards compatible. So I think it's safe to say if it's on Switch One, it is on Switch Two. But I kind of feel like I wouldn't be surprised if like thinking ahead, talking and touching the powers that be, or letting them. I'm their muse right now. Powers that be. I'm sorry I touched you without asking. I wouldn't be surprised if when the Switch 2 is announced, they announced that Metroid Prime 4 is coming to Switch 1. Like, because, I would expect it to be a Nintendo Direct. Ahead of time, they would probably say, like, this is going to be where we talk about the future of Nintendo. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the thing, like, to lead into it is like, before we get to Switch 2, we still have something up our sleeve for Switch 1. And then it's
right.
Metroid Prime 4 and it's like out today or something. It probably wouldn't be out today, but I kind of feel like Metroid Prime 4 is a Switch 1 title still. And John in the chat says Silk Song on Switch 2. I don't know that we're ever getting Silk Song at this point, and I drafted it, which is something that we're going to talk about. But
Yeah.
so, Jordan, I've been monologuing. You are to in my circle, Metroid Prime fan number one, Metroid fan number one. Where do you think Metroid Prime 4 falls? Do you think it's Switch 1, Switch 2, both this year, next year? Like, where's your head at?
I think it is both. I think it is this year for a few reasons. First of all, everything that you just said makes sense. Swan song in it, all that. Um, on top of that, we have the document that I mentioned before that IGN had reported last summer, last August, I believe, maybe September, where even internally they were still listing it as a Switch game, even without a release date. It still said like Metro Prime 4 first party title for the Switch. Um, on top of that, we've had Jeff Grubb talking about some of his inside sources hinting at a May announcement for the game. And this was like doubled down on because apparently the same somebody correct me if I'm wrong in the chat if you saw the article and I'm misremembering it, but I believe what Jeff Grubb was saying was that the same source who told him about Metroid Prime 4 being like a 2024 release was also the same source that also told him about the Epic Mickey remake, which of course was
Interesting.
part of the direct from last week. So once that happened, he was like, "Hey, one half of this, conversation has already taken place, so now we're just gonna wait for the other shoe to drop."
Yeah.
Another thing to consider is that, again, this is coming from somebody who, as you said, is probably the biggest Metro Prime fan that you know, the biggest Metro fan in general that you may know. It has never been a system seller
Yeah, that's
by
true.
any stretch of the imagination. Even the best selling titles in the franchise are like in the 2 to 3 million range, as opposed to the 20-30 million range that
Which is
some of the
so funny
franchises
because you
are.
compare that to other consoles and that's so successful. But you compare it to other
Right.
Switch titles and it's not.
Exactly. And so I even like did some like refresh my memory on some of the launch titles for previous Nintendo systems earlier today once we were nailing down the topics and stuff. So when GameCube came out, Metro Prime came out about a year later. Several months for sure. If it wasn't a full year, it was definitely several months. Like it was the GameCube came out in 20 or 2001
That
and
sounds
Metro
right.
Prime was 2002.
Okay.
And then for the Wii, of course, they did launch with Twilight Princess, which was technically also a GameCube game, but I think they pushed the release for the Wii to come out first. But what what I'm trying to get at is that the systems typically start with a Mario or a Zelda. So GameCube's game was Luigi's Mansion. That was a launch title.
Right.
For the Wii, it was Twilight Princess. For the Wii U, it was Super Mario Brothers U, I
Yeah,
think.
I think so.
Or maybe the new Super whatever it had like 14. It was too long of a title. Stop it. Um, and then of course the Switch was Breath of the Wild.
Right. And Mario
So
Odyssey. One of the few that had both.
yes, not at launch though. Remember, the Odyssey came out in like
Oh, it was like a
September,
month later,
October of the
wasn't it?
year.
Oh, it was the
Yeah,
fall?
it was that fall. Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
which still launch window, still
Yeah,
within
yeah,
the
yeah,
calendar
yeah.
year. So that's still a huge boon for the system. But like yeah, so again, all that to say like it as much as I adore Metro Prime and have been waiting for Metro Prime 4 with bated breath since they announced it like 12 years ago, um, it's not a launch title franchise.
Yeah, I agree.
It literally has never been. Even back to the NES, the original Metroid came out the year after the NES dropped, so it's never been a launch title. So I think that this year makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
with all the dominoes lining. It's been in redevelopment for so long.
Right. That's the other
It's
part for
time.
me too, is that because the development was restarted, which they told us in a direct 4 or 5 years ago now, I just don't think it would make sense in the timeline for Metroid to only come out on Switch 2 because they've been working on it for like 5 years at this point.
Right.
And there's no way that they had dev kits for the Switch 2 5 years ago.
No, no, no,
So, and that probably only happened within the last 8 to 12 months that the dev kits started happening, maybe like 18 months. But so that's not enough time for it to be a Switch 2 exclusive, I don't think. And I think because Switch is well on its way to being the best selling console ever, like if it continues selling as well as it is, then they'd be silly to not double dip in that audience. Be like, oh,
exactly.
you've like so yeah. I think the Switch 1 and 2 release, it like above all else, I think is a shoe in for sure.
And one last thing I forgot about is that with Breath of the Wild, or sorry, Tears of the Kingdom being just astronomically huge, it was in and of itself a system seller for a 6-year-old console. So Nintendo's going to want to end the life cycle with something pretty big too to keep the new owners interested
Yeah, yeah.
before like because I mean I know at least one good friend of mine who just got a Switch at the end of last year, like for the first time, not like oh had it, sold it, then re-upped it.
Wow,
No, like
yeah.
the very first time he ever got a Switch was like for his birthday in November. And so like some people really are just now adopting the system, whether that was because of Zelda or just other timing or whatever. So like they're gonna want to have something big
For
this
sure.
year to tide people over for the next system to come out.
Fascinating stuff. And there's even more to discuss because last week there was a Nintendo Direct and today there's a Pokemon Presents. But here's my question to you, Jordan. We're about 50 minutes into the show. I don't know that we're going to have
Mhm.
time to fully discuss both of these topics. So I think, I mean, honestly, there's not a whole lot to talk about with Pokemon Presents. But originally we were going to go through and kind of parse through the announcements. What do you think about this? Is something that we've done in the past. I don't think an episode that you've been on, but I will just read what was announced and then you stop me if you want to talk about it. or I'll jump in if I want to talk about it. And that way, we'll probably be able to breeze past a few of these announcements to so that because I do want to talk about both, but I don't know that we're gonna have time to deeply talk about both because of how far we're in. But does that sound good?
Sounds good. Let's do
Cool.
it.
Let's dig it. So let's jump to story number 2, Nintendo Direct reactions. This was last week. Was it Thursday of last week, Jordan? Is that right? Wednesday or Thursday? It was one of those two of last week.
Thursday.
It was
Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, cool. And we didn't have an episode last week, so we're going to react now. So this I'm pulling from IGN. Taylor Lyles over at IGN has compiled all of the different announcements. Announcement number 1: Obsidian's Grounded and Pentiment are the first Xbox games coming to Nintendo Switch. Pentiment has already released actually, February 22nd, and Grounded will be released on April 16th. Number 2, a new Super Monkey Ball game is coming this June 25th. I actually want to talk about Super Monkey Ball. Super Monkey Ball rips. And it is a game that I played so much of as a kid on GameCube. And I played like the remaster last year for a little bit, and it didn't quite scratch the itch that it used to. But this one, they're bringing in multiplayer modes. There's like a whole bunch of new stages. This game looks great. Are you a Monkey Ball guy, Jordan?
I played it like once or twice back on the GameCube. I actually picked up the remaster as well last year, because the kiddo thought it looked cute. I mean,
Hell yeah.
obviously it is cute. Kiddo thought it looked cool when we were in GameStop. Of course, for anyone who doesn't know, Elden Ring's got nothing on
They're so
Super
hard.
Monkey Ball.
Super Monkey Ball is so
Like,
hard.
I mean, you would think with the way that it looks, that like, oh yeah, this is like something that kids can pick up and play. Dude, my 5-year-old can maybe do like 2 levels before it gets too hard, and I can get to maybe level 6. Like, it is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, Super Monkey Ball, or new Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble, it's called, coming June 25th. I'm sure I will be streaming that when it comes out. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Classic Rare games, including Killer Instinct and Battletoads and Battle Maniacs, are coming to Switch Online. The other Rare games, we got RC Pro-Am on the NES. We got Snake, Rattle, and Roll on the NES. And I thought there was another one. Oh, Blast Core. N64's Blast Core is also coming to the expansion pack of Nintendo Switch Online. Epic Mickey, as we mentioned earlier, rebrushed. It's a remake of the 2010 Wii exclusive.
I don't have much to say about the Rare stuff, but I will say shout out to Killer Instinct because A, it was pretty cool back in the day, and B, it gave us the classic combo breaker. Pretty
Very
sure
true.
that's Killer Instinct.
I think so.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe you are right.
Mickey, I'm kind of interested, honestly. I never played the original one, but like the concept is pretty cool. This updated graphical style is kind of doing it for me, so
Yeah.
I may have to take a peek. I may wait for reviews and just impressions and stuff first. But what are you thinking about that one?
Yeah, Epic Mickey was a game that I never tried on the Wii, but I always thought it looked really cool, especially its art style. And I don't know if Terry. Okay, Terry is still here. He's so excited for Epic Mickey. I feel like Epic Mickey came out right when we started going to college together, and I feel like you played a lot of Epic Mickey and really liked it. And I'm if I'm remembering correctly, it sounds like perhaps I am because you're so excited for Epic Mickey. So let me know your thoughts on Epic Mickey, Terry. And right above that, John says, no Donkey Kong. No Donkey Kong. I was a bit surprised by that there was no Donkey Kong in the Rare kind of the Rare games coming to Nintendo Online. But it makes me wonder if Donkey Kong 64, there's something bigger happening with Donkey Kong 64 because we already have Donkey Kong Country
launch title.
Could be, but Donkey Kong Country is already on Switch Online. So Donkey Kong 64 is kind of like the big one that's missing. John does make a good point. Not sure that they fully own Donkey Kong. They might not, but I would think if Donkey Kong Country is on, that Donkey Kong 64 could, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, that's confusing. It's
Yeah,
weird.
but I mean, they're their own game. I'm sure it's their own. It's different licensing agreements, probably.
Sure.
Another announcement: Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance is a revamped version of the 2021 Switch exclusive. So apparently, Atlas does this for the Shin Megami series too, where they'll just release another version with more content to double dip. So, which is kind of you
For
know.
those who don't know, Persona is a spinoff of Shin Megami Tensei.
Right,
So
right.
a lot of similar mechanics from what I know.
I've never played a Shin Megami Tensei game, even though I love Persona.
I
I've
have
just
not either.
I've just never been drawn to it. Terry in the chat says, "LOL, yep, 2010. It's just a nostalgia trap for me, and also because I'm a big Disney guy, it's just a game for me. It was just a game for me. Was it the most revolutionary game? No, but it was edgy enough that I was so into it because it was different than other Disney games at the time. I got that vibe from the trailers. Like this doesn't feel like other Disney games that have come out before, so that tracks for sure." Next announcement, or not the next announcement, but they ended the show with Endless Ocean Luminous, which is coming to Switch in May. It's like a go underwater with people and like see the ocean and like look around. Why they ended on this, I don't really understand, but I guess Endless Ocean has like a big fan base, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, South Park Snow Day was announced for Switch. We already knew that that was coming to other consoles, but now we know it's coming to Switch. Ender Magnolia Bloom in the Mist is a sequel to Ender Game Lilies, or or just Ender Lilies. It's a Metroidvania game that's coming out at some point that we didn't get a date. Monster Hunter Stories, which is a 3DS Monster Hunter game, is coming to Nintendo Switch as well as PC and PlayStation.
Fully
Gundam.
voice acted and all that.
Oh,
I know some
cool.
people are pretty excited for that. Yeah,
That's cool. Not a big Monster Hunter guy, but I do
me
know
neither.
that
But
that fan base loves Monster Hunter, so good for them. Gundam Breaker 4 was announced. It's coming out sometime this year. It's another game in the Gundam franchise, coming to PC, PlayStation, and Nintendo Switch. Tragically, Mother 3 coming to Nintendo Switch online, but only in Japan.
and only
They love to play with our emotions. We got a trailer for Unicorn Overlord, a tactical RPG from Atlas, coming March 8th. Penny's Big
I
Breakaway. Oh, go ahead, Jordan.
was gonna say people are pretty hyped for Unicorn Overlord. Apparently the demo is a lot of fun too. Um, and vanilla it is Atlas. It's also Vanillaware.
Oh, that's right.
So the people that also did was it 13 Sentinels,
13
Aegis
Sentinels, Aegis
Rim, or
Rim, and they did a game on the
yeah,
Vita that I played. I'm trying to think of what it was called. It's not coming up when I just put. Oh, Muramasa. Oh, yeah, Muramasa Rebirth. They did. I thought there was another game that they did, but maybe I'm thinking of something else. But yeah, they're very like Dragon's Crown. I'm thinking of Dragon's Crown. It was like
okay,
a brawler with that same art style, like very
yeah,
anime, like, but not just like any anime. Like it has a very specific art style. That's hard
yeah,
to
and
explain.
it's one that like I can't make myself get behind it. The art style,
I can actually just show you
like,
guys the art
because
style
I
here.
like tactics RPGs. I like Fire Emblem. I like, I had some enjoyment from Triangle Strategy, but like I don't know, something about it has like 2D and like
Let's see where.
almost like Paper Mario. Like they're like I don't know. It's hard to like you said. It's kind of hard to explain, but um, I hope that it does well. Like because this is a genre that I enjoy, so I hope
Yeah.
that that it does well enough. But
Yeah, this is a game that I'm certainly interested to see reviews for. I like the occasional strategy RPG, so we'll see. Yeah, if you're watching, I pulled up some B-roll for y'all for Unicorn Overlord. Let's see. We also got Penny's Big Breakaway. It's a 3D platformer. We've talked about it on the show a couple times. That shadow dropped and is out now, and I'm hearing good things about Penny's Big Breakaway.
yeah,
Another Crab's Treasure, which is a Souls-like that puts you in the shoes of a crab at the bottom of the ocean trying to get his shell back. Got a release date of April 25th. World of Goo 2 got a release date of May 23rd. There's a new Contra game coming out. Devolver Digital showed off a new game, Pepper Grinder, coming out March 28th. A really
that
cool
looks really
game. Let me actually pull it up here. I think it was one of the first ones showed. It's called Arranger, a role playing or a
cool. Oh
role
yeah, yeah, yeah.
puzzling adventurer. This game looks so cool. It has this concept of whenever you move, the entire map moves as well, or like the path that you're on moves, and it just looks like a really cool like puzzler role playing game. And I love the art style. This is a Patrick Ass Patrick game, for sure. But did this do anything for you, Jordan?
Yeah, that looks really cool. I don't know if I'm gonna necessarily pick it up, but let me keep my eye on it at
Yeah, for sure.
bare minimum.
We also there's another Sword Art Online game coming, a game called Fantasy Life I, which is a sequel to a 3DS game. I think is coming October 10th. A game called Kingdom Come Deliverance is coming to Switch on March 15th, and
That's an
then
old game. That's a
it
port.
is it okay. And then what I thought, at least for me, was a pretty huge announcement. Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection is coming out,
Right?
and it does it have a date? Let me see if this article mentions a date. March 14th, coming to Switch, PC, and PlayStation. It's a port of the original Battlefront 1 and 2, but it also has a couple new modes and a couple new maps, which I think is really cool. Weirdly, this is being done by Aspire, which the reason I say weirdly is they're the ones that did the KOTOR ports, the second
Right.
of which is like currently in litigation because of like unpromised or undelivered promises. But I'm
Yeah,
very
isn't
excited
it
for this.
something weird? Like it's like you can't even finish the game on Switch.
Yep. I am a victim of this in that I was like
Oh,
10
sorry.
hours into the KOTOR 2 port and I saw online, like, hey, they're going to be releasing like the unreleased content for KOTOR 2 as well. But heads up, there's a game breaking bug. And if you want to, so like you might as well just wait for the extra content. So it's like, okay, cool, I'll do that. And then turns out they
Nope.
aren't going to release the extra content. They were like, actually, the extra content is canceled. And we're no longer working on the game. So that fucking sucks.
Love that. Yeah.
But hopefully this game won't be broken like KOTOR 2 was. But something tells me you're probably going to want to play this on PlayStation or PC if you have it instead of Switch because
Oh man, Switch Online is a flawless,
they wish. Doug Bowser
multiplayer.
fucking wishes Nintendo Switch Online is flawless.
That man was born to be in Nintendo.
Truly. But I mean, overall, I think a pretty solid direct. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. Again, like nothing really that I'm clamoring for, but it's a solid lineup,
Yeah.
especially for like as we were talking about, we're it's very up in the air as far as their first party plans for the rest of the year. So it's nice to see that they still have so much third party support this far into the year or into the life cycle.
Yeah, I agree. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, man, you didn't show any of your like your big hitters. We didn't see more of like Paper Mario, which we don't really need to, but like they still have a lot up their sleeve, it seems, because
Well,
the
remember, this is a partner direct,
right,
so nothing
exactly,
first party. So
exactly.
yeah, I know people are
Sometimes
grumbling
they
about
still
that.
show, even though it's a partner direct. Sometimes they'll show a little bit of their own stuff, but
Oh, true. Yeah, like oh, before you go, one more thing,
exactly,
and it's
exactly.
like Paper Mario's.
But I think the reason they didn't do that, Jordan, is because they were saving some of it for today's Pokemon Presents. This was,
Let
I
me
think it
tell you,
was
that was 15 minutes
11,
of a
only
lot
11.
of
But bright and early this morning, they showed off, yeah, a lot of not super interesting stuff, but there were a couple big things in here. So we kind of just run through these, and let me head back over to the screen share. Run through a couple of these. There's some new Terra raid events in Scarlet and Violet starting tomorrow or yesterday as of release of this podcast. Pokemon Horizons, the series collaboration event starts next week in Pokemon Go. And then the two biggins, Pokemon trading card game goes mobile, and a new Pokemon Legends game came out this year. So let's start with the mobile Pokemon trading card game. Jordan, what are your thoughts on this?
I am already mad at myself for how much time I'm gonna waste in this game.
Yeah,
Because I
it's
mean,
going to be a problem.
partially because I like it, and partially because my daughter does too. But like I've past few months, here and there, been getting some Pokemon cards for both of the kids, and like, oh, it's Pikachu, whatever.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
they like to look at them, and I'm like, can I sell this for any money? I haven't. Don't
Good
worry.
on good on the game for letting it be. You'll get 2 free packs a day. I mean,
Yes,
it's going to be
that's pretty
monetized.
awesome.
They're going to sell.
Yeah,
packs, and we're all going to spend more money than we should on this game. But not only is it a card trader, but you can also battle, which I think is cool. And they were
yeah.
saying in the little interview with the developers, they were saying that there's a few ways that they've kind of streamlined the way battling works in the card game, which I've admittedly never played the card game before. I just
I
had the
think I
cards.
maybe tried to battle like twice when I was 9,
Yeah. So you're
so that's
making
about
up
all
rules,
the
I'm sure.
probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so that was kind of a big announcement. And Jasker, yeah, oh, you can battle. You can. It does, or it does
Yeah.
include battling. I don't know how
They
intense the
made it seem like it
battling
was,
is
like,
going
a
to
pretty
be.
quick, right?
Yeah.
Then they said it was gonna be, like, a pretty quick battle. It's like, "Oh, like, whenever you have time in the day, you can,
Yeah.
do a quick battle with your
Like I don't
friends."
know if it's going to be matchmaking. I don't know if it's going to be like you only battle your friends. Not exactly sure how that's going to work. But
You
and there's
probably need,
also
like, 3 different friend codes and your parental permission slip.
right, exactly. So we'll see how that works. But it's a co-pro between Creatures Inc., Masters X creator Dina, and the Pokemon Company. So a lot of cooks in this kitchen. We hopefully it'll pan out. And then after that, the kind of the big news of the day was a new Pokemon Legends game, Pokemon Legends ZA. It's going to be set entirely in the Luminois city. Is that how I say it? Luminois? Is that right? Do you know?
Luminos, I think.
Luminous. The name of that city should sound familiar to Pokemon fans, as it is the major city in the Kalos region. No date other than 2025. We don't have a specific date, just a release year. And no gameplay was shown either. Just very cinematic. At first, I'll be honest, the first part of this trailer until we got the name, I was like, are we getting a Pokemon like city builder? Are we getting like Sim City or Animal Crossing, but just Pokemon? Which, if we did, I'd play the wheels off of. But
Right.
I'm excited that this game one is in the Legends franchise because I really liked Legends Arceus or Arceus. I still don't know which one you say.
No one knows.
No one
Really, no one
knows,
knows.
not even a Pokemon company. But I also love that they're taking their time. That we're not going to get a mainline Pokemon this year as of now. I still have a feeling that we're going to get Pokemon on a soon to be announced or later to be announced Game Boy Switch online expansion, but
Seriously,
no
where is that
mainline
at?
Pokemon games. Say that again, Jordan.
I said, "Seriously, where is that at?"
It's coming. It's got to be coming.
Gotta be.
But Lumios, that's what it is. Lumios. There was a
We're
couple
both
extra
smart.
S's in the text I pulled from IGN. I'm blaming IGN for this one. I pulled from IGN on this.
Mhm.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on Pokemon Legends ZA?
I never played Arcana, Arcanine. Um, but I mean, I enjoy the open world style of Scarlet, as buggy and N64-ish as it was. So I'm open to the concept of it. I think it's cool. Like I really enjoyed um, Pokemon X back in the day. So the fact that we're gonna be back in that region is pretty cool. Um, so I think it was a tweet from Nintendo of America maybe that seemed to imply that the entirety of the game would be within Lumio City,
Yeah,
which is a pretty big city. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but also it's a couple things there. One, not like an open world, at least not in the sense of like,
yeah, very different
exploring
vibe.
an entire region. But when you see what they were able to do or really not do with a huge open world in the first Legends and with Scarlet and Violet, I think this is a good thing.
I
I
do too.
think limiting the scope to like again, it's a huge city. That's the whole point of Lumio City. It's based off of Paris. They've got the, fictional equivalent of the Eiffel Tower there in the center. Um, like it was designed to be like this like huge expansive place, but like I think that limiting the scope to just like one large city versus an entire region is gonna make it run better, make it look better, and just overall be a better experience.
I think so
Again,
too.
similar to the Metroid discussion earlier, I do not believe a Pokemon game has ever been a launch title, but people are starting to say like maybe this is gonna be coming out for the Switch 2 specifically. Says it doesn't. They were kind of weird with the wording. They just said coming 2025. It didn't say like, oh, Nintendo Switch. Like I think they had
Yeah,
maybe the logo, but it didn't specifically say like I don't know. It could be cross-gen, so to speak, but they
Did
may be saving it for the launch year of the new system.
did Pokemon Red, Green, Blue, Yellow, whatever Gen 1, did that not launch with the Game Boy?
No.
It didn't. Okay.
No, Game Boy came out like what 93, 94, and Pokemon came out in 96.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I just that was just a guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I wouldn't be surprised. I know that it's never happened before, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was a launch title by way of backwards compatibility. Meaning, I think it probably launches on Switch 1 first, but
Hmm. Okay. Okay.
but Pokemon sells so goddamn much. Even though there's never been a history of a launch title Pokemon game, why not? Like
Right.
when you look at the
Why not
top
now?
10 best selling games of the Switch or any Nintendo console, there are multiple Pokemon in every list because the game
Yeah.
sells so many copies. So I would be willing to bet that even though it's not happened before, that this could be the first time it does because where there is Pokemon, people will go and buy. And not that Nintendo needs a reason to sell a console because people are just going to buy it anyway. But if you can play a souped up version of Pokemon Legends ZA on the Switch 2, I know I would wait for the souped up version based
Yeah.
on the performance of Scarlet and Violet. And even the performance of Legends Arceus, like it ran better than Scarlet Violet, but it still had its issues.
Right.
So, but yeah, no, I'm excited to see what this looks like in action because since this was just a cinematic trailer, we didn't see any gameplay. Turning an open like you were kind of saying with the open world being in a city, I'm curious how different that'll feel compared to
Mm.
Legends and Scarlet and Violet because it's just it's a different vibe in a city, not as many like fields, probably zero. So interested to see how that translates.
Yeah, that'll be yeah.
Like I wonder, does it have the same feel in terms of there being Pokemon just out that you can throw the ball out at to catch? Maybe not. Maybe they changed that for this because of
Yeah,
the
because like one of
location.
the things that the text on screen is talking about is like trying to, plan and design a city where like Pokemon and humans live in harmony or whatever. So it's like, okay, so we saw that in X and Y with like,
Right.
Pokemon kind of just like chilling out on the streets and stuff. But like, I don't know how you work that into like the series that kind of started the open world aspect of Pokemon.
I mean,
Like
maybe.
if we're not going outside the city walls to go into fields and like,
Yeah.
are we just like building a wall and capturing all the ones that are inside the wall? Because that just feels kind of like, I don't know, arena ish.
Yeah. I wonder.
Not to catch.
Maybe what we will learn is that the Legends franchise, like its thing, isn't the throwing the ball at the Pokemon and catching it in open space. Maybe the thing is that each of them are their own thing, perhaps. Like this is the legend of ZA. The legend of
Yeah.
Arceus was its own thing. That was like the beginning of time with Pokemon. You're doing all sorts of
Yeah.
research to build like the first Pokedex or whatever. Maybe this is a different story and a different type of game
Okay. Okay.
because of
Okay.
that.
Yeah, and it's still implied to be taking place in the past because this is talking about planning out
Right.
Lumio City. So again, that still is like maybe their thing is that it takes place in the past, but the genre kind of shifts between
Yeah.
game. Um, my question to you also is that you may have seen it as well. There's been some rumors, some logos that are probably photoshopped um, of like a Pokemon Let's Go Togepi and Let's Go Wooper.
Those are the
For
two that they would
Pokemon.
choose.
That's I'm going based off of what people have
Wow.
shown logos for. Again, probably just
Wow.
photoshopped. But in any case, there's been some rumors for several weeks, probably a couple months, honestly, about a new Let's Go style, or at the very least, a reimagining of a classic, and just like Let's Go Eevee and the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl.
Yeah.
So, like, do you think that we still see that this year, or is it like it wasn't announced today, so it's not happening
I
this
don't
year?
necessarily think because it wasn't announced today on Pokemon Day that it's not happening. I think that is a common consideration, but I feel like it could just be that it's not ready to be shown. Now,
Okay.
You could argue that if it's not ready to be shown, is it ready to come out this year? Maybe not. Maybe so. Like that's not something that I'm sure of. But here's what I will say: when you think of the Let's Go franchise, Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, two of the most known Pokemon within Pokemon, like everyone in the world, this is a fact, knows who Pikachu is. Not everyone in the world knows who Eevee is, but Eevee has fucking cachet with your standard consumer.
People need to know Eevee.
Yeah. Here's what I'll say. Your standard fucking just walking down the street, I know who Pikachu is, I maybe know who Eevee is, doesn't give a goddamn about Togepi and Wooper. If those are the two names they're choosing for Let's Go, terrible idea. Terrible choice.
Dead on arrival.
Dead on
Only
arrival.
selling 2 million.
Right. It's only going to sell 8 million. But
Pathetic.
that would be a weird choice, Togepi and Wooper.
It would. I agree. I'm all for it. I want those style of games. Like honestly, I think that the Let's Go Eevee Pikachu, that could be a template for how to do a remake because it was
Yeah.
just so just perfectly done. Like they changed enough to make it feel fresh, but not enough to be like, ruin your nostalgia, so to speak.
Right.
But like, yeah, Togepi and Wooper, those are odd
So yeah,
choices.
if here, so all of that to say, if Togepi and Wooper are the best choices for what you would call the Let's Go games set in the Johto region, I think it is more likely that they will do a. Remind me, the Johto games. What were those ones called? I forget. Silver, gold.
Yeah, I think so.
I would be willing to bet it's like Pokemon Shining Silver and Deep Gold, like whatever, like the Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl. Like I think it would
Glimmering
be,
gold.
yeah, I think we would more likely to get the one-to-one remake in a new art style as opposed to the kind of like reimagined remake of the Let's Go franchise that is bigger, and it was mostly one-to-one, but there are different styles of remake, I guess is what I'm saying. I would be willing to bet it's more just like here's a name with a new adjective versus an entirely new name. Let's Go X.
Right.
John says, "Let's go Paris." It's just maybe there just aren't Johto Pokemon that have the name cachet as Pikachu and Eevee. Maybe that's an unfair assumption on my part, but
Let's go
I
ho
don't buy it.
ho. I mean, it's
I
right
don't
there.
buy it. I don't buy it, Jordan. I don't buy it. Yeah, Jaskin says very odd choices. I agree.
Yeah.
And
I
John
guess
wants to know,
those are just this.
can you buy crack off of Jinx in the Pokemon slums of Lumiose City? You might be able to. Only one way to find out, and that's to play Pokemon Legends ZA in 2025. Jordan.
And to your other point, I'm kind of with you that just broadly speaking, I don't know about Pokemon specifically, but just because something wasn't announced at this type of direct
Yeah.
or presentation doesn't mean it's not coming. Because again, I just know way too much about Metroid type of things. But like, just friendly reminder: Metroid Dread was like rumored and in development hell, whatever, for like 19 years. Announced at E3, so June of 2019, released October 2019.
Yeah.
So they didn't speak a word of it as far as like officially announcing it until 4 months before it was released. So like that's not entirely out of Nintendo's wheelhouse to be
Sure.
like, hey, by the way, 12 weeks from now, be sure to buy this.
Yeah,
So
no, you're right. You're
um
right.
and I think it would definitely help them to still have some type of Pokemon something this year because they typically have the past few years have a cadence of either being a mainline game of some kind or the DLC for something or a
Sure.
remake. It's kind of like been cycling through those. So
Yeah.
it's been a couple years since the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, so I think something could be coming still.
It certainly could be. And I think if for some reason we don't have a full new game, then I think they could put I think red, blue, yellow, green, whatever version were to come to a Game Boy Switch online would be a big enough thing. Like that would, I bet
Yes,
that
I
would
agree.
be a big enough addition to Switch Online to convince someone to get Switch Online and to convince lots of people to get Switch Online because people have so much nostalgia for that game. And I also wonder, because something that Switch Online does that a lot of they don't really talk a lot about, but they have these like special edition type things of games where like it's like a
Mm.
almost like a vertical slice of like a different, like there's a Mario 3 one that's like just like a little cut of Mario 3, and it like feels like there's like little differences to it. I wonder if there's any possibility of them doing what. Do you remember what it's called? If Tony is still in the chat, he knows. That type of Pokemon that people Twitch stream where like there's new rules to it and like your Pokemon die.
Nuzlocke.
Yeah, I wonder if they would like release some kind of a Nuzlocke type thing. Maybe, I don't
Oh
know.
man.
But I bet if there's not a full remake, I bet their big Pokemon thing for this year, unless they're saying it's the card game, the digital card game, which honestly could be that, would be the Game Boy versions coming to Switch. But we'll see. Only one way to find out, and that's to wait and see, Jordan. And that's our show.
For the
What a full
later.
conversation. So many Nintendo things to discuss. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man.
For those of our sweet audience members still listening or still watching, if they don't already follow you, if they don't already know where to find you on the internet, where can they do so, Jordan?
First of all, that hurts. Second of all, you can find me in that Spotlight Discord. Join the Discord. It's a lot of fun. I'm on Threads and Instagram mostly. Cognitive Clips. YouTube at if you do the little at symbol cognitive hyphen clips. A lot of video essays. I've been dabbling in a few other types of videos as well, like first impressions or Helldivers 2 propaganda videos. But yeah, just having some fun with that. You can also find me in basically everyone else's podcasts. I am always a guest host, never a host. Just did an episode with Short Game Long Talk the other week. I'm just kind of doing a deep dive into some just RPG talk and what makes RPGs tick for us and
Hell yeah.
that sort of thing. So yeah, that's where I be.
Hell yeah. You can follow us at Spot Games Pod on Twitter or Spotlight Games Pod everywhere else. That's TikTok, that's Instagram, that's YouTube, that's Twitch, which we're live every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. And for the foreseeable future, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, streaming The Last of Us Part 2 with Rose on the sticks, who is in the other room at the moment. We're going to be back in less than 24 hours to continue in our journey of The Last of Us Part 2. I don't want to say where we are, but we're past a really big point in the game. That's all I'll say. So we're getting into juicy stuff, and this is all new to her. So it's fun to watch her experience this story for the first time. And I think you'd have a lot of fun doing that. Thanks to Jacob in the chat, John in the chat, Terry in the chat, if you're still with us, for being here and chatting as the show went on. Until next week, make sure you follow us. Make sure you subscribe so that you know when we go live. And hey, we're Twitch affiliates. I didn't mention that at the top. So if you do want to subscribe to us, whether it's your Twitch Prime sub or a real sub, it really helps us out. So all subs are appreciated. Until